Hey, Dillon. Thanks so much for joining Healing Harvest Podcast. Appreciate you being here. We've got Dillon from Well Your World.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Absolutely, man. I really appreciate what you have going on with Well Your World because it seems to me that your main intention is to simplify things and make things easy to adopt a healthful diet on an ongoing basis, day to day. And that's something I've been kind of obsessed with over the past several years. I actually have been interested in starting a YouTube channel as well. I've made a handful of kitchen videos, and then someone turned me on to Well Your World, and I was like, oh my God, Dillon is doing the thing. I was so stoked to find you. I am just curious to get some background on you. The podcast is all about sharing personal stories of transformative experiences. And so, yeah, I would love if you would like to share your experience of what got you into the whole food, plant-based lifestyle.
Sure. Well, it was probably 10 years ago, I guess, that I've been eating this way. And I feel like at least several years before that, I was looking for the right way. And I think I didn't have a terrible health issue. My mom and I actually started this together, and she had a bit of a health scare. She had high cholesterol, and she was prescribed her first medications that the doctors were going to put her on for the rest of her life, and she did not want to do that. So I was also at the same time kind of in parallel sort of trying to figure out health. I had been eating a plant-based diet, but not a very healthy one for probably 3 years, and I was on it and off it and trying to figure that out. But I was, my cholesterol was going up, my blood pressure was going up, I was getting fat, but not, I wasn't in a very scary territory like many of the people who work with us are in when they find out. So I'm fortunate that I was able to learn, earlier on, but I had my mom kind of to motivate me to really figure it out. Because like I said, I was doing it wrong for 3 years, and I wanted to figure it out and feel like this effort that I was putting in was giving me something back. And it was doing a healthy whole food plant-based diet, without all the added oil and a big reduction in the added salt and sugar that like 10 days in I got amazing results and that I didn't even anticipate. I was doing it sort of to be an accountability buddy for my mom and educate myself, learn. It was Dr. John McDougall's Start Solution that really turned me. I'd read other books before that, like the China Study. That's what made me go plant-based, but it didn't get into some of the other aspects that are, how do I apply this? How do I actually eat? And so it was the Start Solution that really helped me figure out how do I eat. And I went into it as a skeptic, which is good, I think. I think a lot of people find us skeptical, and it's not until they've tried it that they're like, oh, he's not full of it. So that's what I felt about John McDougall, and after that I was like, I'm not going back. I don't want to feel like that again. And my mother has improved her health, lost a lot of weight. My whole family eats this way now. And I didn't have to push them, they saw it, they saw my mom's experience, and they didn't want to go through, my father's getting into his older years too, and they didn't want to go through all that. So, and they had great results just as you would expect. So that's how it all started for me. And then I just wanted to spread the word. I did go through that period that's very common, which is that you're trying to tell everybody, and you think that all these close extended family ties, they're going to want this. They're going to want this information. They'll be over the moon when I tell them that I got this pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, and there's enough for everybody to share.
The proselytizing phase, right?
Yep, they just pushed it back. So I got into a lot of trouble with that phase. It was before I had a good understanding, and so I started making YouTube videos because I needed therapy. I needed somebody to talk to about this. And there was nobody in my real life other than my mom, And so I wanted to be able to spread this message to the people who actually wanted it. I'm not out here as an activist. I really don't care what people do with their lives. I want them to get the result that they want to get. And I can help them get there if they're willing to do a pretty dramatic change to their diet and lifestyle. So that was what I sort of figured out. It took me some time to figure that out. And it took making YouTube videos and getting that reinforcement, people saying, hey, you've helped me change my life, and it means a lot. So that reinforced that I don't have to tell anybody about this anymore. I can live my life. I don't have to raise red flags and all these other relationships. I can just live and I can talk to my tribe about this. And that has been the most liberating feeling, and we've built a community, a whole community around it. Yeah. And yes, our message, our core message isn't just shut your mouth, it's make it really easy so that you don't feel like you're doing work all the time. Because, we have a culture of eating out constantly, and nobody wants to make food for themselves anymore. It's kind of sad, like the things that are most important to keep you alive, nobody really knows how to do it anymore. Yeah. And I want to bring that back to the people who find value in doing it themselves and feeling great every day, living into their old age, but not trying to biohack themselves into living forever. They just want to live a really great life, and then at the end of it, let's just drop dead, right away. And but not be stuck, immobile, having had a stroke or something like that leaves us feeling like we can't communicate, we can't connect with the people that we love. I don't want to go through that. So my goal isn't to live forever or live to 120 or even live to 100. If I do, great. But my goal is to live into my true genetic potential, whatever that is, and then die quickly at the end of it. And feeling like I've done the best that I could, and I didn't leave a whole bunch on the table. So I think that's a different message than a lot of people when they're looking at health are saying. A lot of people, are chasing after the nutrients and perfection, and I don't want perfection, but I also don't want to slack. I just want to live and make it be easy, and so that's me.
Beautiful. Very aligned with what you've got going on, everything you just shared. I'm curious, you mentioned towards the beginning that you used to not be doing it right, and then you read the Starch Solution. What was it specifically that you shifted? Was it like the vegan, junk food vegan kind of diet?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Oreos are vegan. All potato chips. I'm like a potato chip addict, so I have to stay off of that. Or if I do have them, it can't be in my house. Yep. There are things that I just and everybody's like this. They're just afraid to use that word addict because we all culturally accept that we should be eating junk food all the time, and some of us get away with it. Frankly, I have the genes that look like I'm getting away with it, but on the inside, I was not. Yeah. I didn't get to I was a little overweight, but I wasn't into the obesity or anything like that. Other people, they don't get the leeway that I got. So yes, I removed the processed oils in all of my cooking. I removed all the junk food except for, eating it out elsewhere in very small amounts or, special occasions. It became, I stopped drinking so much. I didn't have a drinking problem. I wouldn't say I was an alcoholic. I drank like one, probably, but it was more a lack of education. Like I wasn't physically hooked on it. I was just socially thought that this was normal. Why I could have a glass of water or I could just have a beer. What's the difference? Right. And so I just didn't know. And so I cut that out, and that made a huge difference. I mean, and it makes an unbelievable difference to your productivity, the way that you just feel like the accomplishments in your life, whether that's with your family or your friends or your work, whatever. And so, but those are the big things, was just the processed food, the processed oils, thinking that that's just how you cook. You can cook a different way? Had not crossed my mind. And it doesn't cross anyone's mind. Why would it? This is the culture. We grow up where we grow up. We understand things the way it's delivered to us, and we don't know to question it. We question lots of things, but that one just doesn't enter our radar because it's so normal. And so those are the big things. And then I lost, like the first month, I lost like 15 pounds, which is ridiculous. I didn't even know I had 15 pounds to lose. It ended up being like 20 plus pounds over the first few months. So I'm like, wow, is the weight loss going to stop? And then it did. It did. People called me skinny. People called me, gaunt and all this stuff. And then they realized, oh, that's just what he looks like when he's not carrying the rounded face features of having that extra weight. And so I like how I look, and I like how I feel.
Awesome. Man, I have such a similar story to you. First of all, the kettle chips are 100% my guilty pleasure, and I think sometimes about food addiction, and I wonder like how prevalent food addiction is. And then I think like there's so many foods that are just manufactured to maximize the hyper palatability of it, and we all have that dopamine rush. And some people seem to be able to manage it a little bit better than others, but I think that a lot of us, maybe a lot more than we think, have some sort of food addiction, maybe with specific foods, not like overall, but there are certain foods, like I cannot purchase a bag of those hickory barbecue kettle chips. I just can't have them in my house. It is not a thing that I purchase anymore because I've come to terms with that fact,
Yeah, I think we all have different tastes, and maybe that's what we grew up on. I ate a lot of chips, and then I really like those, and that's where my cravings were. If I ate a lot of something else, maybe it'd be that. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. It just matters that you identify it, and you do what you need to do to stay in the zone you want to stay in. I always say, like, eat the worst diet you can get away with while still feeling the best that you can, without the meds that you need to control your blood pressure and cholesterol, without feeling pain when you get up, without feeling brain fog when you get up, without feeling like you need caffeine to function. That we don't all have to eat an absolutely perfect diet. Some of us have personalities where it would behoove us to do so because the cravings hit us harder than other people. But I don't like to tell people, like, you can never have these things again. I like to go on a date night out at some vegan restaurant that's not good, not healthy food. Is it healthier than going to a steakhouse and eating all that? Sure, but at the end of the day, if I always ate, even at the vegan restaurants, I would become very unhealthy, and pretty quickly, actually.
Yeah.
So I just tell people, you have to figure out what is your the best you need to do in order to reach your goals and still feel like you're having that enjoyment or whatever that some people associate with being around the table and eating not so healthy food. I would encourage them to find other ways to experience that enjoyment, of course, but not everybody's willing to just cut it out. I mean, to the people who do, you have my full support, of course. Yeah. But the people that aren't quite, there, I like to meet people where they are and open their eyes to another way. It's so different, and you've been doing it for, what did you say, a year?
2 years.
We take for a couple years, we take for granted what that difference, that delta feels like between the old and the new, because we've experienced this now for a long time. And there are a lot of cultural shifts and a lot of ways of thinking differently that you don't sign up for. They just happen. And if you want to stay successful, you have to deal with them. Like, it means losing some friends that only liked you because you were the guy that went to brunch on Saturdays and Sundays, and then to the next bar, and then to the next bar, and that was your weekend. And, I want to be your friend still, but I don't want to do that. And if that's what you want me to do, then I guess I'm out. Yeah. And that happens. That happens with family. For some people, it happens with their spouse. It's either, do I owe you my life, or are you going to support me even though we do things differently? And that social pressure is the hardest part, the thing that I think is the hardest when it comes to sticking to it, and the simplicity factor, for sure.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, you mentioned eating at restaurants. I was curious to hear your perspective on the balance, because there are certain people that require the 100%. They have that one taste. They're like an extreme food addict. They have that one taste, and then they spiral, and then others who I'm more online with you in terms of, like, every once in a while I can go out to that healthful restaurant, and it feels like a little indulgence, and then the next day I'm getting right back into my kitchen. I think that a lot of things that people don't consider is even the quote unquote vegan, healthy quote unquote restaurants, they're still using oil. They're still using a ton of salt. It is not something that eating on a regular basis is not going to promote your health. Like, if you do want to truly live a healthful lifestyle and eat a healthy diet, you have to cook most of your meals at home. Like, that is just the reality, and you make that, like, your channel makes that so easy. You've been doing it for a long time. You have so many great YouTube videos with all of these different recipes, and I really like your plant rants, and you have a really, really great resource. I really hope that people listening will hop on the bandwagon.
Thanks, and I'll add, like, I definitely think everybody would do their best to be eating on plan all the time. Like, that is the number one way to not have cravings, to not feel like when you're tired and fatigued and you don't know what to cook, even though you have a fridge full of food, It is the easiest if you don't have in your near-term memory an experience of eating out at at the garbage food.
Yeah.
Like we would all thrive in a caveman environment where we didn't have those options at all. But some people, they just aren't willing to say, I am going to abstain entirely from those foods. And I want them to feel like they have a home at Well Your World, because they do. But I still agree that even people like us that decide to go out and eat that way once in a while, we would be a lot better off not doing it. Because I feel it. I feel the cravings after that happens. But I've done it enough times to where I can beat it. But there are many people, I would say most people, it's going to be much harder letting it slip in from time to time. I mean, it's like an alcoholic. Most of the time, an alcoholic cannot have one drink and be like right back on track after that. They're going to fall off. So food is a little less strong than straight up drugs, but we'd all be better off being perfect. But many of us, myself included, aren't willing to completely abstain forever and ever and ever. But I support the people on both sides of that, because it's all just understanding, it's all just understanding where everybody is and being supportive to those that feel like they need that online community and in person to the extent we can do that. I want to do get-togethers, but we don't have anybody in our lives who eat this way. We need a connection. And if we're going to build any sort of a group, it's going to be made up of people that are, all kinds. What I really just don't like is the people that are going to yell at me because I peeled the potato and I threw the skins out because they are the healthiest part of the potato, or don't peel those carrots because all the nutrients. And if you're worried about nutrients and you're already eating a healthy whole food diet, you're stressing too much. You're spending too much time worrying. And if your personality thrives in that environment and you just love chasing after every molecule of nutrient, then by all means, again, you have my support. I would never tell somebody to stop doing what's working, but I want to help people because most of the time that doesn't work for most personalities. And so it's like, you can get by being a lot more chill about this, and let's not argue about the nitpicky stuff. Let's all just agree. We didn't get sick because we were eating a healthy, whole food, plant-based diet, but we screwed up and peeled our potatoes, or we weren't eating organic. It's like this. The problem isn't organic versus conventional. It's that our taste buds are completely hijacked to go after dopamine. That's all. That's the hit. That's the social media. That's the doom scrolling. It's all dopamine, and we all get addicted to it. But it wasn't because we were eating healthy, whole foods, but just the wrong way. So I try to remind people of that when they start harping on these little details that weren't the cause of their actual disease process or their sickness.
Stress is bad for you too. Cortisol is bad for you. People who are so stringent and strict, I think can end up doing themselves a disservice. I've seen people who get on the bandwagon and they make a smoothie that has, the like raw garlic and ginger and just like the most potent, healthy smoothie. But it doesn't last because it's not palatable. It doesn't have, cherries and bananas in it.
But for some it does. And I don't dog on them because for some it does. For some they have that perfect personality and they think that because it works for them, everybody else is the same as them. That's where the mistake happens.
Yes.
So I don't have any problem with people wanting to go after curcumin and black cumin seeds and do all these things. If that is truly where they're thriving and they aren't experiencing that stress you're referring to. Because they're out there. But I think that those people that live in that and aren't stressed out, they start to try to bring in a tribe of people that aren't like them, and then they try to adopt that same method, and then boom, they're off, and they blame the plant-based diet when, of course, that was not the cause of it.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, I always add that caveat because, I don't want to offend people when they're doing something that works for them. But what works for you might be a modification from what works for me. But we're all at the same, let's find our least common denominator. What is that? A diet, free of processed junk food ingredients with as much whole natural foods as possible, free of the processed oils, dramatically less in salt and sugar, or none. But, I add salt to the food, for example. We sell all salt-free products because I think we should bring back the salt shaker. Honestly, I think that you should be in control of the salt that you add to your food instead of letting some packaged food company do it for you, which you know what they're going to do. Salt's cheap. So they're going to put as much in as they can without being too offensive, and it's going to keep you hooked and wanting that salty thing. So that's probably one of the harder ones is helping people to adjust their palate to a lower salt intake, because as soon as you go back to eating at restaurants for a little while, you're neuro-adapted to that high salt again, and that one takes the most amount of time, I think, to come back. And
yeah, the restaurant, getting thrown off by the hyperpalatable food is just. I am remembering in your story, you did a 30-day challenge with your mom. Is that right?
Right.
I think that a 30-day period of time is a really good chunk of time to let your taste buds kind of adapt to a better, to be more sensitive.
Adapting. Absolutely. And a lot of things are adapting. Your gut, I mean, if you're coming off a standard American diet, your gut is got completely different animals in there that are digesting, and you need to give them time. So people get gassy when they first change, and then they say, oh, I did that for a few days, and I'm just farting all the time, so that's not for me. And it's like, well, you didn't do it long enough, because that all adjusts. And for some people, they've adapt. I was talking to Dr. Michael Clapper on our channel, and he had such a great, insightful thing to say, and it's that when you're getting all of these standard American foods, your body starts to adapt to those becoming like, from a microbiome perspective, your fuel, your reliable fuel source. And then when you change that, you're asking your body to do different things, and then you're wanting these magical results right off the bat, which usually comes from people that are doing this for vanity reasons, like weight loss. Is they have much less patience because they've yo-yoed on everything. They've tried every fad diet. Their motivation isn't internal core like health and wellness. It's vanity, and that can be really hard. And that's why I hope for the people that start with vanity, they spend enough time at it to get the vanity, but then during that process, they're going to feel what actually happens when their internal health starts to improve too, and they're like, oh, this is bigger. I should do this for health. And then the weight loss will happen as a byproduct instead of doing it for the weight loss. And that's a cultural problem that we have, because 3/4 of our country is fat, they're overweight or obese. So everybody wants to lose weight. Now we have the GLP drugs that are doing it for people. So we're ingraining this more and more into the culture, that you just, once you get to this certain point, you do this thing, you should expect results right away, and then I go on living life. And maybe you go back to this, and you swing back and forth, and it's very hard. I would say that, don't go on a diet. People, don't go find a lifelong dietary approach to what brings you great results, happiness, and don't underestimate the mental result that comes, not from weight loss, but from feeling like you can again. And that is like so scary for people when they feel like their fate is no longer in their hands. And when you're on meds for the rest of your life that the doctor says you need in order to stay alive, you feel like you've lost control. And now you're putting your health and your life into the hands of someone who doesn't probably even live a healthy lifestyle themselves. So why are they, with their PhD or doctor or whatever, the ones telling me how to live my life when they don't have any idea what they're doing to themselves and what could come knocking at their door when they turn 70 or 80 or whatever. And so get to it early. I mean, fortunately, the body has such an amazing ability to heal itself that you can get started pretty late in life, you can. But why waste those good years? Why waste those good years with your kids, your grandkids, your pets, going on walks, going on hikes, enjoying the world and getting outside, fresh air and sunlight? And we don't get to live forever. No matter what these punks say about shooting yourselves up with peptides every day and all this stuff, you aren't going to live forever. You aren't going to pull this off, not in this generation anyway. So get out there and do the thing you can actually control today. You cannot control the date that you're going to die, but you can control all the things that will result as a byproduct in the most enjoyable time here on earth. And that's what I want for me, and that's what our community wants for themselves, and we all encourage one another to just stick to it. And if you fall off, get right back on. Focus on the process, not the outcome. Don't pay attention to the 8-ball, when will I die? When will I die? When is it going to be? Just focus on what you can do right now to set yourself up for the best outcome, but don't focus on the outcome. Stay off the scale. You don't need to get blood work every week. Like, just, take it easy and do the things you know work, and you will find great peace, and you will not experience the stress that if some random person on the street, if they knew how we eat, oh my God, they'd be overwhelmed with the stress of, where am I getting my protein? Where is this? Where is that? And it's like, all that stuff just goes away, and you realize living life well is so much simpler than all these gurus are making it out to be. And it's a tragedy, because it's costing people precious time and money that could be spent on so many other things. So that's I'm just ranting at you.
Love it. Rant away, brother. I love it. Yeah, when I did that 30-day Nutritarian challenge with Dr. Furman, he said pretty early on, he's like, this is not a diet. This is not like, I don't want you to just do this for 30 days. This is a nutritional approach that you need to adopt. And this is how you should eat the rest of your life. And I don't like using the word should, but I kind of rolled my eyes when he said that, early on. I was like, oh, come on, I'm just doing this challenge, and then I'm going to go back to, using my olive oil. And I definitely was guilty of heavily salting my food for many, many years. I've been more on like the whole food train than the average, plant-based diet. But then, and like after those 30 days passed, I was like, I'm into it. Like, I feel so good. I got over the hump. My taste buds changed. And then I realized that I was getting the same appreciation out of the meals that I was before. Everything kind of balanced out, like it tasted bland, and then it went back up. And now I eat that like Nutritarian, that whole food, plant-based. I don't have the oil and the salt in it. And I get just as much enjoyment out of that meal as someone else. And then I can go for a freaking run.
To explain that to people.
I can go for a run afterwards. I feel light. I feel great,
Isn't that
sleep
something?
better.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because the food coma thing is so big, and it's so real. And for me, I am not Hari Hachibu or whatever it's called. I eat till I am full.
Yeah.
And
Me too.
I can still function after now.
Yeah.
Like, I love that. But I really like what you said, because the food does not taste the same at first, okay?
Right.
We're not out here talking like this recipe I made should taste like the steak dinner you're used to eating, okay? It's not going to happen. But what does happen is exactly what you said. You derive the same amount of enjoyment from that meal after a short time. Well, a longer time for some people. Maybe it takes several weeks, whatever. And it's not just the taste buds too, is what I think. It's that what you're doing is going to result in more of the whole feeling of wellness. And so it's like that. You associate that now with your taste buds, and so it tastes even better because it's definitely right, and that I don't have a blockage in my heart that could cause a heart attack or a stroke at any minute. And that is like, it changes the flavor of the food, I'm telling you.
Absolutely. It's empowering.
Neuroadaptation is a thing. You will like the food when you've gone enough time without the bad stuff.
Yeah, and there is something to be said for that. The peace of mind. I have heart disease and high blood pressure, stroke, diabetes, all run in my family. There's no freaking way that's happening. Like, I have such peace of mind that there's just no way that could happen. And I have the confidence and the safety and the security of knowing, that I have taken more control of my health destiny. And that's not a fear that I have to live with.
And also, I've felt that confidence too. And then I get a little wake up call, like I go get some random blood work maybe once a year, and I'll be like, oops, I was not quite being as good as. So sometimes we do need another kick in the back, and just to be like, just to clean it up a little bit around the edges. And because, it can creep back in very gradually, and you can forget how great you felt and it's a very slow process. So I do like to once in a while, like maybe take a few days off of food and just like recalibrate and make sure I'm not forgetting my core principles,
When you say take a couple days off food, do you mean like fasting or?
Yeah, like you could do a water fast. You could do I'm just gonna eat potatoes for 2 days. Just something that'll like bring your taste buds down even more after you're like eating a bunch at a restaurant. We had friends in town a few weeks ago, and we were eating out a whole bunch, and that's like, and you come back to it, and it's like you need a little reset.
Yeah.
So, but fasting you gotta be careful with, because if you're on meds and stuff like that, you need to do it with a doctor. You need to be safe. There are experts that I love and know closely who run that kind of a thing, but fasting is amazing for healing and for neuroadaptation of your taste buds. But it's also something that people can misuse or abuse, because it can result in weight loss, and then people get into the weight loss game again, and then they binge and they restrict like that, and then they binge, and it can create an unhealthy process. So you have to be careful with, but simplifying your diet for a short amount of time I think is very healthy. Doing like Dr. John McDougall's wife Mary's Mini, where you pick a starch and you just eat that with one like condiment on top, and that's like what you do for a few days, or I don't know, you can do it for any amount of time you want, but it definitely makes it so that when you go and eat a cherry tomato a couple days later, it tastes really salty. And so the taste bud adaptation is a thing, and your brain is playing a huge role with the craving side of things that is so underestimated. It's not, nobody pays any attention to that pleasure trap. It's one of my favorite books by Dr. Lyle and Goldhammer. That you don't understand the mind game from all of, again, if we lived in our caveman environment, we wouldn't be in this kind of trouble. But for all of these products out here that are practically free, and the dollar menu, and totally subsidized, and they're calling you everywhere. Everybody's got some snack out when you go over to their house, and it's like always there singing at you that siren song. But you do what you can and you get back on track, and we don't, I don't get into the whole dogma proselytize and just like I try to keep a level head about it and how I live my life. And I think that I've found most people that are successful are keeping a pretty level head, whatever that means to them. What their max effort that they want to put in, don't go over that. Don't go over that, because you'll fall off. You'll recoil. You won't recoil back to a healthy spot. You'll recoil back to an unhealthy spot. And then you have to pick yourself back up again. And it's harder. But we do it. We all do it. We support people in our community who have to do it. I get people come in all the time. Hey, I was gone for a couple months. You know where I was, but I'm back. And I'm like, we're happier here.
Yes.
We're just happier here.
Yep, absolutely. You mentioned The Pleasure Trap. That's absolutely one of my favorite books. I'm curious if you have any others. You mentioned The Starch Solution, and I'm curious if there are any other go-tos for people that you recommend.
Well, I think Neil Barnard's Reversing Diabetes book has really helped, because a lot of people are coming to this in trouble. People that follow us are already a little bit older. They want to recover from something very real and very serious in their lives, and that has been the motivation to turn their back on their entire family's way of eating. That can come as a pretty hard punch to all of them. So it's like, not everybody is younger and just nerding out about it like me. And, because I was just so confused. Why are these people getting cancer? Why is this random? Do I have any control over this? Or am I just like living life on autopilot? And I did not feel well about that. What was I just saying though? I just went off on a tangent.
We were talking about...
So Reversing Heart Disease, Neil Barnard, Reversing Diabetes. Mastering Diabetes is a really good one. Preventing and Reversing Heart Disease, Caldwell Esselstyn, excellent book. The China study for just understanding the links to cancer from animal products and
especially
animal
with
protein.
Especially with the protein craze that's happening right now.
This protein thing, man, it's big. It's serious business. This is not good. I feel so bad. I'm not an activist, so I'm not doing anything about it. But I sure don't like it.
Yeah.
I'm doing something about it with our people that come to us, of course, but I'm not out here yelling at people about protein. I'm not interested. But I sure hope that they can open their eyes, because there's some serious problems coming for this excessive protein intake. Not even just cancer, but the liver, the kidneys. We have to filter all this protein. Your body does not need that level of protein. We are not all running around these vegans with a protein deficiency. It's not a thing.
Crazy.
Our primary fuel is starch. Our primary fuel is whole carbs. Eat your primary fuel. The fat you eat is the fat you wear, like Dr. John McDougall said, and it's meant to be our secondary backup fuel. It's the thing that allows us to go a length of time without food. It's what allows us to water fast. We're the only species that can go all this time. Not the only species. My turtle hibernates all winter, but you know what I mean? The mammals, the apes, we're the only ones that could ever leave the equator. So we need fat. I'm not anti-fat, but it's our ancestors ate a very low-fat diet, and that's what you need in order to thrive. And so those are my favorite books. But also T. Colin Campbell, who did the China studies, Whole is an awesome book.
I've read that.
That one's really important to me because it matches my mantra of not going after all this reductionism. I love Dr. Furman. He's a friend, and I've met him many times. But he does get a little in the weeds with some of the reductionist approach.
Precision nutrition is how he calls it.
And so if you're optimizing to live the longest life possible, and it's worth it, all that effort for you, then I'm not going to poo-poo that for you.
Right.
Go for it. Is that approach technically the healthiest you can do? I suppose, but I don't think it matters. I don't think I need the extra 1% or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so with that book, Whole, was really special for me because it's like, stop worrying about all of the reasons why broccoli is a healthy food. Just know that it is. It's a whole food. Nature's grown it. Eat it as close to the way that it grew as you can. Cooking food is fine, and let's move on. Let's not make this our whole identity. It's obviously a part of our identity. It's a part of our identity I'm very proud of.
Yeah.
But it's not the thing that makes me special. It's not I don't do this because I have a passion for cooking. I have a cooking show I've had for 8 years. I have one tomorrow, and I'm not passionate about cooking. I'm passionate about community. I'm passionate about educating people. I'm passionate about helping people to get figured out on the thing I got figured out faster than it took me. Because I have some tips, and you don't have to spend that 3 years that I spent going through hell in your head, telling yourself, why am I still doing this? I'm not getting anything out of it. I want to help you figure that out faster. And that's my passion. My passion isn't plant-based eating.
Right.
I just know that's just how you do it. I brush my teeth every day, twice. I'm not passionate about it.
Right.
I do it every day though, and I can choose not to, but I know what happens when I don't.
Yes.
Does that make me want to go and study everything there is about toothbrushes and toothpaste? No, I just brush my teeth and we're good.
Yeah, and you don't think about it.
It's the same thing for me.
Yeah, and you have a system. Yeah, one thing I really appreciate about you, so you are an engineer by trade, and you are not technically a professional chef. You don't come from that background, and yet you have a cooking show. And in my opinion, that makes your material more accessible. You're hearing from someone who isn't passionate. I don't want to spend all day in the kitchen, neither do you, but I do want to be healthy. And I have come to terms with, I can't eat at restaurants all the time. How am I going to feed myself and make it simple and easy, and so that it actually is sustainable? You take a 5-step recipe and you cut it down to 2 steps. Like, are people going to notice the difference? No, they're not going to notice the difference. Like, maybe if you're a chef and you have a finely tuned palate, but you're not going to notice the difference. It's not necessary. You can simplify things and make it easy, and that's what I really, really appreciate about you. I think that there was a craze of these shows with professional chefs, and they're making the most decadent food possible, and people are so obsessed with that. And then and they think that that's like, I don't know if they think that's how they should be eating, and they go and try and recreate one of those meals. It takes them 3 hours. They use every single kitchen utensil they've got, and then the next day they're like, well, that was so much work, I'm just gonna order out. That's so much work. But it's not
Yeah. And again, I always add, like, for some people, that is their joie de vivre. They love that
it.
every day, every meal, and I support you. If that's who you are and you wanna create magic in your mouth, but do it in a healthy way. Do it in a way that will sustain your health and wellness, so that you can enjoy that passion for a long time to come.
There you go.
And it doesn't get taken away from you. That's what hurts so much. So yeah, but most people, they think that they should be passionate about the chefery.
Yes.
And so they try it and they think, why am I broken? Why is that person doing it with such ease? And yet I am broken. I feel like I have to make flashcards just to know how to cook.
Yeah.
And so so much of this is introspective. Like, who are you? What is your personality? What really do you like? And that's not just your day-to-day habits, such as cooking, or maybe you just love mowing lawns, or maybe you love doing engineer things and nerding out and whatever. Find out what that is. Don't waste your life not knowing what actually drives you. And I'm not saying everybody in the world has to have this just unfettered, unbottled passion for something, but don't chase after something that it isn't.
Right.
Because you will feel broken, you'll disappoint your internal audience, and you'll feel like a failure, and you'll go right back to the thing that makes you feel good in that moment, which sadly is whatever gives you dopamine. And that's the most easily accessible thing to get dopamine is food, junk food. You know?
Yeah.
So,
food and social media.
Thanks for noticing. Reebs, my wife, is on all of our content we do together, and she came from having no cooking background. She didn't grow up in a family where the meals were cooked. It was Hamburger Helper and Betty Crocker style, assemble a couple of garbage things like a cream of mushroom soup with this, and you've got a meal. And so her first learning how to cook was healthy eating. And she's like, it was so freeing, because all the time that she was eating unhealthy, she thought she had to go become a chef in order to get her life back.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, I don't have to do all these things, and I can still take care of myself. That's so important. Like, learn how to take care of yourself, and take responsibility when things aren't going well, and find it in you to say, be so coachable with yourself, to where you want to be wrong so that you have another opportunity to be right about something. And I love being wrong. I love making mistakes, because you have to take risks. You have to try something else that you don't know if you like yet. And then you figure this thing out, and a light bulb goes off that you didn't know was in there that could have turned on to begin with. And so you got to spend some time just thinking about you, just putting yourself first, figuring out what makes you tick, and moving yourself to the right environment where you will thrive. And that is not just about food. That is about life. That is the thing that drives me, is figure out who you are. We all have a personality. It's not going to change. No matter how many self-help books you read, you won't change your personality. You can change many other things about how you live your life, but you're not going to change who you inherently are. And as long as you're fighting who you really are, you will not find success at this or anything. And that is just so big. So
Agreed.
Hope we
Agreed,
didn't
my
get
friend.
No,
I dig it. I like your rants, man. I do want to be respectful of your time, though. I just want to mention a couple of my favorite videos of yours. The one where you had your mom on and you cooked for her, and then she rated the dishes. That was super cute. Your mom's adorable. I thought that video was really creative. I make the chickpea frittatas regularly. That recipe is really good. Never even heard of chickpea flour. And the San Francisco oats, the savory oats, so good. Never thought of that either.
Put that one back on my list too.
Yeah, man. And I love the dad jokes that you pop in every once in a while, right? And your the shirts. You're wearing a shirt right now that says "You better bay leaf it," and I'm not sure if you caught a glimpse of my broccoli shirt over here I'm wearing in your honor. So I love the dad jokes. I really like your sense of humor, and your website has a lot of good offerings too. You've got the weekly meal rotator. And yeah, just a lot of great, your articles just kind of laying it all out, start here, begin here. You've got some great stuff on your site, and a plethora of wonderful information on your channel, and just really, really appreciate what you've got going on, man.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, and we do sell some food products too on our site, so they're not any kind of proprietary blend of magic. They're time, because when like you said, we all have to be making our own food all the time. A little boost of time is nice. So when you can buy something already bottled up, or that saves you a little bit of time, they're not some kind of magic health food, but they do have the baseline, no added salt, oil, and sugar, and they're products we use all the time in our cooking. We've always got sales going on, so I encourage you to go place a $50 order and get free shipping.
There you go.
And we'd love your feedback. If you want to reach out to us, it's very easy to do so.
I appreciate hearing the story of how you first developed the product, because you started off like making a simple product to save yourself time, and then people started reaching out and saying, hey, ooh, that's interesting, or you should sell that, and then you slapped it together, and all of a sudden, you realized people were interested in it, but you did it for yourself first, and I really respect that. And I also really respect in your videos, every single time you use one of your products, you give like a tiny little humble plug, and then you say, but you don't need to use this product, you can make it yourself, you don't need to buy our stuff. Like, if you want to support us, you want to save some time, I've got it made for you, but you don't need to do it. I really respect that.
Well, thank you, Adam. It's nice to meet you and get to know you. I hope to see you again.
Thank you. You as well, Dillon. Take care.